So the question, good afternoon, beloved saints and sons and daughters of the Almighty. So there's a question, should we pray for people? Or is that just a gift that's given to some people? And the answer is we should always be praying for people all the time, anytime we have an opportunity. And so, you're not always going to get a miracle every time, because you have to remember, Daniel prayed to the Almighty and he didn't get an answer for 21 days. And he was a super righteous man. He was called beloved by Yahweh, and he had favor with Yahweh big time. And so, that took 21 days. So it's not going to happen right away. You're not going to get your prayers answered right away, but you will always get your prayers heard. They're always heard. And sometimes they're answered in a small way. Sometimes they're answered in a big way. And sometimes he says no. And sometimes he says, wait. And you might have to wait a couple years and then receive that blessing. So he always answers every prayer. And so if you see someone who's sick, you should always pray for them. I had someone who had 105 fever. I prayed for them and it went down to 99. So this was a miracle. Okay, so that doesn't happen every time, and it doesn't happen right away every time. But sometimes you'll have, if you pray for someone, they'll have a little bit less pain, or they'll have a little less inflammation. And so prayer works in the smallest level, and sometimes in a big level. But we should always be praying, because Yahweh loves to be talked to all the time. He loves it when we care and have compassion for other people. And so we should always be praying, because it says the prayer of a righteous man availeth much. So if you're a righteous man or woman, guess what? Your prayer will be availed, and you might have somebody healed. And it might not happen right away, but it might happen 6 months later, and they'll be healed. And then they'll see you later on and thank you. And they'll thank Yahweh, because Yahweh is the one who does all the healing, and we're only vessels that he works through. But there was these atheist doctors, and they did a study. And they said they were trying to prove that prayer does not work. Prayer does not work. And so what they did was they took 100 patients who were going in for knee surgery. Now, 50 of them were prayed for, but they didn't know they were being prayed for. So 100 people had knee surgery. 50 of them were prayed for. They didn't know they were being prayed for. The ones who had been prayed for had faster recovery, less complication, and better results. And so these atheist scientists became believers, because they said prayer works. We don't know why, but then eventually they became believers, because prayer does work, even on a small scale. And sometimes he might say no, and sometimes he'll answer it many weeks later or months later, or he will answer it a lot later, or he might answer it right away. So, we just always have to be praying for people. So we're commanded to go out there and pray for the sick and the demon oppressed. And so we don't want to neglect our calling. We are commanded to do that. And sometimes if they don't want to be prayed for, you can pray for them in silent, and they don't have to hear it. But you can just, as you're driving by somebody and you see them in a wheelchair, you can pray for them in your mind. So we always want to be praying for people, and this is what Yahweh loves, having compassion and love for other people. And hopefully, we'll have, if you're working in that function of praying for people all the time, Yahweh might gift you in that area and work through you as a vessel, and you might be like Apostle Paul and Peter, who healed people and crippled people, and they got up and walked. So, this has happened in the past with people, and it can happen in the future. It says we will be doing greater things than the Messiah. So, these things will happen. All right, I just wanted to say that real quick. Thank you so much for listening. May God bless you in all that you do.